We are officially in the doldrums of the NBA offseason, and with not much news going on right now, the Boston Celtics, the Philadelphia 76ers' biggest rival, actually went out yesterday and made a bit of a head-scratching move. They trade Georges Niang and two second-round picks to the Utah Jazz for undrafted forward out of St. John's, R.J. Luis. And R.J. Luis was one of the best players in college basketball this year, had a bad game in the tournament, and he goes undrafted. It was questionable as to why he even came out of the draft. And this was a bit of a head scratching move by the Celtics, and kind of like a slam dunk thing for the Jazz here. I think it was more so a salary dump type of move for the Celtics as they continue to transition into this new era that we saw them dump a lot of spaces here to avoid going over the luxury tax. But you had to think another move was potentially coming, and the Boston Celtics go out there and they make a move that has a direct correlation to the Philadelphia 76ers for this upcoming season. They go out and sign longtime power forward Chris Boucher, formerly of the Toronto Raptors. And as we know, Gershon Yabusele left the Philadelphia 76ers for the New York Knicks this offseason and left a pretty big hole at the number 4 spot in this rotation for the Sixers. When you look at this roster, fully constructed, fully developed at the time of right now on August 6th, in a world that Paul George and Joel Embiid are out there and on the floor, the 4 spot is still the biggest question mark for this team. Is it going to be a Dominic Barlow? Is it going to be a Jabari Walker? It's a spot that still remains open, and with the 76ers still having 2 roster spots open, one presumably going to Quentin Grimes, another one was probably going to be designated for a power forward. And with Chris Boucher now off the market, it is a slimmer market now. It is a slimmer spot out on the free agents scale. You have to think the Sixers are most likely going to bring someone in, and Sixers Senses released a new article today kind of highlighting maybe the next potential fit for this Philadelphia 76ers roster after this latest move with Chris Boucher going to the Boston Celtics. So let's go into the article a little bit and talk about it and kind of the ramifications here. I think Boucher would have been a great fit. His ability to kind of stretch the floor, protect the rim, gives the Sixers a little bit of a different element there, and he adds some offense at the 4 that I really don't think is that available out on the market besides for maybe one more player. But it talks about here where kind of NBA free agency commenced over 1 month ago, and the 76ers still don't have a safe bet at power forward. I think it's going to be kind of a battle here with Barlow and Jabari Walker for some major minutes there, while the top unrestricted free agents are off the market. A few unsigned forwards were remaining that could help the Sixers. That was until the Boston Celtics made a flurry of moves, and they took the best available power forward off the market there with Chris Boucher. We talked about it there with the trade. But once the Celtics went through with this trade, they technically didn't have a 4 listed on their roster. So they go out there and they acquire Boucher. As we talked about, it's not so much that Boucher can elevate the Celtics, it's more so aggravating to the Sixers. And that's what kind of my takeaway from this article was, where I'm not doing backflips that this was a move that the Celtics made, or Celtics fans aren't doing backflips that this is a move that's going to bring them back to title contention. But I thought it would have been a nice potential addition for the Philadelphia 76ers. But Jacob Marino in his article here touches on it's more so that the Sixers have these 2 last roster spots. Most likely one is going to have to be used on a power forward. I think it's going to be a spot that gets battled out throughout training camp, throughout early in the season. Johnny Broom will probably be in the mix there as well. But Trey Lyles is most likely the best power forward option out there now, and then there's a pretty big gap after him. So as we know, going into this offseason, it was widely considered that the Philadelphia 76ers will not be able to retain Gershon Yabusele. He goes to the Knicks for that 2-year, $12 million deal, and as we touched on at the beginning, leaves a pretty big hole here at the power forward spot that the 76ers seemingly haven't been able to address. And my main takeaway, too, with this power forward spot as we head into the season, sure, it's a position of need. But when you look at every roster, doesn't every roster have a position of need? Doesn't every roster have a weakness? You're not going to have, an unlimited strength at every single position. I think in the front court, as long as Embiid plays, with who knows if that's going to happen, that should be a strength at the center spot. Paul George, if he returns, but I like what we have depth-wise behind him in Kelly Oubre and Justin Edwards. And the guard spot, I think they're really good. I think the one kind of glaring weakness on this team is the 4, but if you can get sparingly minutes from a kind of rotation of guys, a cast of characters in that spot, I think that's going to be a welcome kind of presence on this team, and not something that's going to be asked to nobody's going to be asked to do too much at that spot. That's kind of my point here, and why Chris Boucher was probably an ideal role player, an ideal kind of fit on this roster. At that 4 spot, he gives you some height with some ability to rebound, but also the ability to step out and shoot the ball. He's not a great shooter, but a career 34% shooter from deep. An effective rim protector as well, about 1 block per game in his career, and 5.1 rebounds, 8.9 points per game for his career. But also another big thing I think too was that he has the experience with Nick Nurse. You look at all his playing experience here with the Toronto Raptors. He was actually the last member left from that Toronto Raptors NBA championship team under Nick Nurse. So he kind of would have knew what to expect for playing with Nick Nurse, knows his system, knows what he likes as a coach, and I think that would have been an ideal roster fit. And like we said at the beginning too, he's not going to go and change the Boston Celtics, push them over the top, and bring them back. I think the Boston Celtics are in kind of a full rebuild year, reload type of year as they get Jason Tatum back on his feet. But this is a move and a roster spot that I think the Sixers could have benefited from having a guy like Boucher on the roster. It's still a big question mark at the 4. I don't really think you're going to do anything at this stage of the offseason to really upgrade that spot. I think they're going to basically have kind of like a tryout basis with a handful of guys at that 4 spot to go out there and kind of prove themselves on a night in, night out basis early on in the season and try to kind of button down that rotation over the second half of the year as they get to the playoffs. So Trey Lyles now is the name that many Sixers fans I think kind of have their eyes on as a potential guy to fill this spot. And if I'm being honest, I think maybe Trey Lyles, I would have taken him over Chris Boucher just because I think he gives you a little bit more on the offensive end, and I think you might need that at times with potentially Janai Broome and Andre Drummond in there at the 5 without Embiid in the lineup. And Trey Lyles, I think, gives you a little bit more of a scoring presence consistently. I think Chris Boucher better on the defensive end, probably a better rebounder. You look at Trey Lyles here, only 3.4 rebounds per game. But Trey Lyles, about a career 35% shooter from deep, 7.6 points per game, but averaged 10 points per game in multiple or on multiple teams throughout his NBA career. 10-year NBA vet, he's been through it as well. And we talk about the beginning, it's nothing major. This isn't going to be a thing where it's like, the Trey Lyles signing save the Sixers season, or that's the move that's going to kind of propel them going forward in the East. But it is still a spot of weakness on this roster and a spot that the 76ers are going to have to figure out. You can't go into the season with this cast of characters right now at the 4, rotating between Janai Broome, most likely Dominic Barlow, Jabari Walker. You got a few guys there on 2-way deals. Hopefully Quinn Grimes is back. He fills that 1 roster spot. They still have this 1 roster spot open after that, and it's most likely going to go to a power forward. Do they bring in Trey Lyles? It is going to be kind of the silver lining, I guess, to this question. Is he the guy? Is he able to come in here and play consistent minutes? I still don't know if this is even a player that will be a starting player on this team. They might opt to go small and go like Kelly Oubre at the 4 or something, Justin Edwards at the 3, Paul George at the 4, or you go a 3-guard lineup with a Quentin Grimes, with a Tyrese Maxey and a VJ Edgecombe. And then you go with a Paul George at the 4. A lot of questions remain to be seen. Everything's still up in the air with the health concerns around Joel Embiid and Paul George. So we don't really know what we're going to be getting. Training camp is about a month away, a month and a half away or so. So we are starting to approach basketball season more and more, but we're kind of in the doldrums of the offseason. Nothing major going on, but that was a move that kind of piqued our interest and saw a potential player for the Sixers go off the market yesterday with Chris Boucher. So they now turn their attention most likely to Trey Lyles, the next potential guy, and then it's a pretty steep fall off from there of guys that you probably aren't going to be able to trust on a nightly basis. But you look at Lyles' numbers here. He's never really lit the world on fire in the NBA, but he has had his moments. He's a career 35% shooter, about going to be able to put the ball in the cup a little bit. I think he's a little bit more of a liability on defense than Chris Boucher would have been, but still, I would welcome that addition at this stage of the offseason, especially with his experience and showing the ability to be an NBA-level contributor. But a lot remains to be seen. It's all going to come down to health for the 76ers team, but let me know what you guys think below. Was Boucher a guy you wanted? Is Trey Lyles a guy that piques your interest? We'd love to see what you guys say in the comments below. As always, everyone, please like, please subscribe, and we will be talking to you next time here on Sixers Digest.